Hello, everyone. My name is Shona Watt from McGill University.
And I'm David Havlick from the Harvard University Office for Sustainability. And welcome to our session. To address the large existential sustainability challenges that many of us in the sustainability world are focused on, we'll need creative, well-educated leaders in the future who are equipped with the skills to create real change. And increasingly, students on our college and university campuses are learning the valuable lessons that are preparing them for that future outside the classroom. We see this co-curricular learning, which happens outside the classroom, and is structured learning in a variety of settings when it comes to sustainability. Student sustainability projects, grant projects, living lab projects, student advocacy groups, and student-led and student group projects. When it comes to sustainability projects, their primary aim is to have an impact on sustainability metrics, operations, and policy. But there's another important impact that often gets less attention, and that is the co-curricular student learning. Sustainability projects provide a unique opportunity for experiential interdisciplinary co-curricular learning. And students often don't only learn about the sustainability topics they're working on, like solar energy or community gardens, but they have the opportunity to learn how large, complex organizations work, how to build a team, how to keep to a timeline, how to make a persuasive argument, and lots more.
In this session, we'll hear from 7 sustainability professionals who are managing student sustainability programming at their schools and are developing innovative ways to track, enhance, and support student learning in co-curricular settings. Our session will have the following speakers. Shamta Hunter from the University of British Columbia Sustainability Initiative will be talking about UBC Sustainability Ambassadors Program, an immersive sustainability leadership experience for students interested in personal, collaborative, and community-engaged learning. Next, we'll have Eunice Annenvogel and Paul Lundquist from the Royal Institute of Technology. They will be talking about some examples of living lab activities and ways to support teachers, as well as reflecting on the benefits of providing a physical on-campus platform. Next, we'll have David Havlick from Harvard University, who will be talking about a workshop they developed to support staff members in being more effective educators when working with students on living lab projects. Shona Watt, myself from McGill University, will be talking about how McGill's $1 million Sustainability Projects Fund has cultivated collaboration and student leadership. And lastly, we'll have Gianluca Paglia from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology Lausanne, so EPFL, will be talking about the evolution of the Act for Change Lab and the Living Lab approach at EPFL. Nicola Banuel from EPFL will also be sharing the development of the Climate and Sustainability Action Week as the next step after Act for Change Lab.
Hi everyone, my name is Shamta Hunter. I am the manager of Sustainability Student Engagement at the University UBC Sustainability Initiative at the University of British Columbia, which is located in Vancouver, Canada. Before I begin, I just wanted to acknowledge that University of British Columbia is located on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also, as a team, like to acknowledge that we are joining this session today from many places near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. Land acknowledgement has become one of the way we honor and remember whose lands we occupy, and this active recognition has become a big part of the weekly team meetings of the Sustainability Ambassadors Program, the leadership program that I would like to talk to you about today. But before I dive into that, I wanted to give you some perspective of the context that we are in. The Vancouver campus, which is shown here at UBC, is located uniquely on 402 hectares of campus. We are essentially a small city, which is shown here, of 70,000, and operate our own heating, electrical, water, waste, roads, and infrastructure, which offers us our unique context to act as a living laboratory to test and apply ideas. We offer over 46,000 courses, of which over 660 are sustainability-related courses, and we have a very active student body with over 70 sustainability-related student groups. We were ranked, according to the Times Higher Education, ranked #1 in SDG number 13 and 14 just recently, and we have set some really aggressive GHG emissions of 100% reduction by 2050. So in that context, our sustainability leadership program called the Sustainability Ambassadors is an immersive leadership experience for students. And it was, we initially started this program, it is in its 10th year now. The program was initially realized as a means to fill a gap of engaging students through interdisciplinary integration of leadership skills and offer students a platform to develop knowledge and values, as well as collaborate to turn their ideas of social and ecological sustainability into actionable projects. So since 2012, we have come a long way. Recently in 2016, in 2016, we adapted it into a new framework using the sustainability competencies. So I'll talk a little bit about that framework. We chose the 5 key sustainability competencies as shown here. There are 8 set of competencies that are linked directly to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals as per UNESCO. We chose these 5 kind of given our context, and we have combined some of those 8s into these 5s. And the learning objectives of the program itself are focused directly on these competencies. The program, the way we deliver the program to achieve and cultivate these competencies is through these 4 main pillars. The mentorship and support is primarily provided by a full-time staff member, as well as students, alumni students who come back and offer support to current ambassadors. As well as experiential learning through project-based work. So students are encouraged to work in small teams and conceptualize their own ideas of sustainability into their implementation ideas on campus, especially working with close community partners on campus and of course off campus as well. The education part is driven by what we call the social change model of leadership. And through that, we offer weekly workshops on various skill development. So from having really in-depth values conversation and linking that to some of the sustainability work that students want to do, as well as leadership discussion, project management, event planning, discussion on climate justice, a circular economy, and a lot of different facets of sustainability. One of the key features of the program is multidisciplinary team, and a lot of students who come to this program share with us that this is the only place where they have worked with a multidisciplinary team of students in their university career. So this past year we had a team of 24 with 21 different unique programs represented. Ambassadors are expected to commit to up to 4 to 5 hours per week. It is a volunteer program. They meet 1.5 hours per week for weekly workshops, and then they commit up to 2 to 3 hours towards their projects. They also have check-ins with the program advisor, and then submit a project plan and then a project report at the end, as well as an entry and an exit survey. The program timeline, so we open the applications in January for the following September start. And we shortlist in February, do a group interview. We receive over 200 applications every year. We go through a group interview for about 50 to 70 students, and then we narrow it down to about 24 to 25 students that we take, and they start in September. This is just a graphic that captures really well some of the modules that we go through between September and April that kind of target some of those key competencies that I talked about. Just wanted to share quickly some of the projects that ambassadors have done in the past, including from Tales of Sustainability, where they use storytelling and narrative to celebrate success and failure stories around sustainability. We did a week-long conference on SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, a hackathon where they hacked a sustainability issue coming from a community partner, a career night celebrating professionals in sustainability, also a podcast focusing on sport and sustainability, and a community dialogue on systemic racism and inequality. Just wanted to share quickly some of the responses we have gotten from the alumni ambassadors. So I'm sure you can pause the video and read these. And I will stop there with my contact information if you want to contact me. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, my name is Jonas Vogel, and this is my colleague.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Per Lundqvist, professor at KTH at Stockholm.
We're going to talk about KTH Living Lab and how we use testbeds for learning. But just a few words about the KTH Living Lab first. So the KTH Living Lab is a research center at KTH with the aim to accelerate innovation in the built environment. And to do that, we have three main activities, let's say. So we have test infrastructure. And down here you can see the three test beds, testbed KTH, testbed Einar Mattsson, and testbed Akademiska Hus, 3 buildings. We also have a data pool where we store and share all the data from the buildings and also from the research projects conducted in KTH Living Lab. And we also have a collaboration platform where we meet industry and academia and also teachers, students. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
When we discussed this, we thought that we might, put a little bit into the theory and reflect a little bit on learning. So there is a, to the left in this picture, you see sort of a traditional learning setup where a teacher hands out the problem to students, the students work on it, they solve the problem, there's some sort of examination. What we've been working on in many educational, in many programs over the last years is to move towards challenge-driven learning, where we would sort of hand over a lot of the responsibility to the students also to take part of the problem formulation and identifying sort of starting with a challenge, identifying the problems, and then go into the problem solving process, examination, and then add at the end a reflection, tying it together with the initial challenge. Did we actually solve it, and so forth. What we have been seeing, this is very, very tough for the teachers to set up. Creating this challenge time after time, year after year is a challenge. It's a tough way of teaching. It's very resource demanding. So what we have seen in the context of Living Lab is that the context we create with the Living Lab offering sort of a definition of challenges, providing the context for teachers and so forth to start off within our community with the challenge, or even starting directly in the more traditional way from a problem, but the problem is embedded in a context that is actually at hand for the teachers. So we have seen that this actually enables a lot of possibilities for teachers, and so we will show a few examples on the way we see the benefit from providing the context of Living Lab in this way. Jonas.
Yes, so one course in the year 4 at the KTH Architect School, they were looking into, a challenge here. So make proposals for a smarter, more sustainable lifestyle, both in terms of individual student homes and connected social interaction spaces, indoors, outdoors. So the students were actually there when we started to develop the Living Lab. So one student, he was thinking about movable pods where you can live in, and you bring them with you when you move, so you can then save space. You have a bigger common space where you can work and live. Another student was thinking about movable walls, so where you can have both a private apartment, but when you move the walls, you have a public space in the middle. And this idea we actually took and developed. So the Living Lab now, our testbed KTH, is actually designed according to the students' ideas. So go from the challenge and the results.
Another example is from one course where this is the program is industrial engineering and management program. They wanted specifically to have 1 week challenge with industry for the students, and they had the specific learning outcomes was to work on presentation, orally and writing in professional and convincing way, but it was also to, under time pressure, develop and present in a convincing way a new innovative business idea in collaboration with external employers, and also to identify, discuss, and critically evaluate energy and sustainability related issues in today's society. So that was perfect for us. So we created this challenge that was set up for 1 week. So in Monday morning, the students met with the company, which is a manufacturer of different taps and stuff for bathrooms and kitchens. And the challenge was to develop a smart home application for sustainable water usage with an associated business model together with this company. And so the students worked the whole week with having those different presentations and feedback loops and so forth. And on Friday afternoon, we had 8 different groups presenting their prototypes of these apps. So this is one example from one group which they developed with different feedback. And this can be taken. This is 1 week exercise, so it's very challenging for the students, but a great experience because they really get this team learning effort, and we got super great results. And actually, several of those projects have now continued also as bachelor thesis projects and so forth. This was for the 3rd year students. So course was energy systems and sustainability.
Yeah, and what have we learned as enabler for learning here as KTH Living Lab? We can see that students there, they really like to get into the real systems, to work in the basement. You can see down to the left, the start of a course in the basement of the KTH Living Lab. And then we can take a walk up to the roof where you can feel both the sun shining and the solar PVs creating electricity, or not creating, but anyway. And then you can see the students, 30 students inside a 20 square meter student apartment. And at the same time, the CO2 levels, what happens when you put 30 students in there? Well, you get quite high levels of CO2. What we're ongoing working with is also to enable multidisciplinary courses here and help teachers so that they can start work multidisciplinary. So, yeah, thank you for listening.
Visit our homepage here because we have done many more projects with students and several of them are presented there. So thanks a lot. Over to next.
Hi there. Just again, I'm David Havlick. I'm from the Office for Sustainability at Harvard University. And today I'll be talking a little bit about a training that we developed to help train staff who are working with students on Living Lab projects. But first, just like the others, I'll give a little bit of context at Harvard and how this training fits into our work. So as I mentioned, I'm from the Office for Sustainability, and our vision is to build an inclusive community that contributes to the intergenerational well-being of people and the planet. And we do this in a variety of different ways. But today I'll be keying in on 2 of these things, which is bringing students, faculty, and staff together to use our campus and community as a testbed for innovative solutions, and creating transformational opportunities for students to develop as engaged citizens and leaders for the future. And we really think of Harvard as this exciting real-world testbed for this Living Lab work. We have decentralized management, which means all of our different grad schools and our college operate relatively independently. So it's a perfect place to pilot things in small settings and then scale them across the university and then beyond. We operate 650 plus buildings that cover 25 million plus square feet. We serve 10 million meals a year, et cetera. And so there's lots of opportunities to pilot exciting new innovations and strategies and technologies. And our living lab work we think of in 4 different buckets. We collaborate with cities, with local nonprofits, et cetera. We collaborate with researchers and experts to create policy that really is linked with the latest research. We fund and help support research projects, which is where we'll focus today. And we also work with within courses to develop challenges for students, et cetera. But today I'll be talking about that research portion. And so one example of the way we support Living Lab research on our campus is we have a Campus Sustainability Innovation Fund, which is donor funded. We launched it in 2016. And as a requirement for project teams, we ask all teams to include at least 1 faculty member, 1 student, and 1 staff member, although many include multiple of each. And this funding addresses the funding gap for applied research, supports these scalable solutions and pilots of those solutions. And thirdly, and last but not least, we hope it's providing meaningful co-curricular educational opportunities for the students in these project teams. And just to give you an idea of what some of these projects look like, we funded a project that is looking at our healthier indoor spaces that we've created as Harvard is creating, building new buildings and renovating old spaces. We're being really careful to make sure those are really healthier, which means avoiding certain classes of chemicals that have been linked with health problems, et cetera. But we were not confirming that work to get those harmful chemicals out were having an impact. And so we teamed up with a research team, a student who assessed those healthier indoor spaces to make sure they were having the intended consequences, which led to a peer-reviewed paper. We recently funded a project on planting plants that are helpful for pollinators under a solar array in our arboretum. And this research team, together with students, are developing new technology for counting the number of pollinators and developing a new guidance for policies under solar arrays. And also we helped support a team that was developing an electro-biofertilizer in the lab. And we teamed them up with Paul Smith here on the left, who's in Harvard Landscaping, to actually try out their product on Harvard's landscape. And again, students were involved and have learned a lot. And so this work for this workshop, which I'll talk a little bit about, all started with a dinner that I attended, which was hosted by the Harvard Initiative for Learning and Teaching. And it was mostly faculty. And the topic was around co-curricular learning. And we went around the table and asked the faculty, and then me, who is not a faculty member, where we think a majority of the learning on our university campus happens. And I was really surprised, luckily I was last to answer, that almost all of the faculty guessed that more than half of the important learning that happens outside the classroom. And then it was my turn, and I said something like 50%. But like I said, the faculty were thinking most of it was happening outside. And as I said, a lot of these living lab projects are an opportunity for students to learn, but we weren't really putting in the resources to make sure students were learning and make sure we were supporting that learning. And so in that dinner, the Harvard Initiative for Learning and Teaching connected me with someone from the Harvard Library who had developed a workshop to teach librarians to be more effective educators because they weren't necessarily trained in educational principles. And yet they're engaging with students and hoping that those students learn something from them. So they had developed this workshop. And so we applied for some funding from the Harvard Initiative for Learning and Teaching to develop a workshop for staff working on sustainability projects, which gave us the opportunity to hire a grad student from our Graduate School of Education. To start our work, we did focus groups with staff and students who had been involved in some of these sustainability projects. Some of the information we got from staff was that students are often motivated by the outcomes rather than the learning, but by the end, the students are really excited about what they've learned. That it's challenging to prioritize learning when stakeholders have conflicting expectations and are hoping just to reduce water or reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and the learning is just kind of an afterthought. It's difficult to track the learning, And staff said they would benefit from being able to better articulate the importance of that student learning so they could make space for it. So articulating it maybe to senior leaders or their boss to make it clear that this learning was important. And some of the things that students said was that they needed help with project management throughout the process. They wanted to develop leadership skills. They benefit from more help navigating our complex university. And as I mentioned, they reported learning surprising lessons at the end of a lot of their projects. And so we took a few months to develop a workshop. And this was kind of the format that the guide for developing that workshop. So we wanted to make sure that staff after this workshop would understand how to analyze the learner, what assessments they could use to measure learning, that's in the middle. On the right, what activities they could build into their annual process with working with these teams to check in on learning, and how to really at the top of this measure, plan for, and articulate the learning objectives through the process of these projects. And so we developed a pre-work module where we provided information for staff to understand what co-curricular learning was, the benefits of that learning, how to define a learning objective, and how to relate the importance of those learning objectives to help motivate students. And then we had created this workshop, which was originally supposed to be in person for the first week of April, which, as you can imagine, had to change because of COVID. And so we very quickly adapted to an online setting, which actually, to our benefit, meant we had to write out everything. Which actually made a lot of this work much more scalable and repeatable. So in a sense, we benefited from that conversion. Some of the learning outcomes of the workshop was to teach these staff members how to create learning objectives for co-curricular learning, how to create and apply assessments to measure that learning, how to analyze the assessment data, describing methods for supporting that learning, how to apply strategies for developing metacognition, which is the ability to know that you're learning through the process, and then demonstrating skills to giving effective feedback, which included, we did like some role play, et cetera. And in the end, we gave those staff, which you all will have access to as well, a repository of the materials that we used in our workshop and some more materials that could be useful for them. In the end, 13 staff members, not only from our office, but also from Harvard Planning Office, the Graduate Commons Program, the Harvard College Women's Center, and Harvard Housing all participated in this. And they all work with students in co-curricular learning projects. And the biggest result, as you could see, maybe especially from the graph on the right, wasn't necessarily that they answered our pre and post questions better at the end, but that their confidence grew enormously around answering questions around co-curricular learning. And by building that confidence, and we checked in 4 months later with these staff, they all have now developed new ways of integrating, thinking about co-curricular learning in their work, and have even started to, we ended up training the trainer, because now a lot of them are training others in their staff on things that they learned in our workshop, which is really exciting. And we hope to, in the future, repeat this workshop for the staff who are on a lot of these projects that I mentioned earlier. And so some of the valuable lessons for us that we learned was, especially from our focus groups, was that this co-curricular learning has enormous value to students, which is connected to the research and teaching mission of our university. That workshops like this are scalable and don't even necessarily need to just be limited to sustainability projects. That documentation is extremely important. And so, like I mentioned, now we have everything documented, so we'll be able to repeat this. And that increasing staff confidence is key, because as I mentioned, 4 months later, checking in with staff, it's because of that confidence that they were able to develop and integrate a lot of what they learned into their everyday work. Here's some more information about many of the things I talked about here. And I'm excited to answer questions later, and turning it over to the next person.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shona Watt. I work at the Office of Sustainability at McGill University. McGill is located in Montreal, Quebec in Canada, and so we are located in the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe Nations, which is a place that has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. Today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the 10+ years of student leadership and learning that has happened through our fund called the Sustainability Projects Fund. The mandate of the Sustainability Projects Fund is to build a culture of sustainability on McGill's campuses through the development and seed funding of interdisciplinary projects. The fund came to be because students were really advocating over 10 years ago, and they really wanted to see resources and capacity developed for sustainability on campus. So this is the largest fund of its kind in Canada, and any student, staff, or faculty can apply. And there's a governance council that evaluates on 8 criteria, and there's a lot of collaboration through the fund. So the fund, the money comes from student contributions. So each student pays 55 cents a credit, and then it's matched dollar for dollar by the university. And the governance council uses these 10 criteria to evaluate applications, which they receive every month. So every month we have meetings and we approve or disapprove projects. And to put a little bit of things into context, McGill has 2 main campuses and some smaller satellite locations, and we have over 400,000 students. So we do have quite a big community to involve. Since 2010, we have allocated over $10 million to sustainability initiatives. We've had over 275 projects approved at this time, and budgets can range from very small to very large. And the scope and kind of depth of the fund helps us advance McGill's long-term goals. So we have our long-term targets are reaching STARS Platinum, carbon neutrality, and zero waste, and also gives space for what our community feels is important. So it's great that we're able to balance different priorities and different interests while staying true to the spirit of the fund and our mandate. We have approved a wide range of projects. So typically, historically, as similar to most of the sustainability movement, previously it was mostly environmentally based, but now we have elements of environmental, social, and economic aspects built into the application. So it's okay if the project is more environmentally or socially sustainable, but we kind of built into all these holistic aspects so that they're thinking through these elements of sustainability from the get-go. Projects range from gardens to supporting racialized students to apply and complete their degree at McGill. Since we provide seed funding, naturally the projects are quite challenging to get up and running. So the funding sources, decision-making, and buy-in for projects require collaboration between students and staff. So that's why there's a lot of collaboration in the project itself and also in the structure and funding of the SPF, the Sustainability Projects Fund. Learning is up to the project teams, and since the projects are so different, people are learning really different things, but almost every team, I would guarantee almost pretty much all of them, get something meaningful out of their project. For most applicants, especially students, this is often the first time they're managing a project, so they get to learn how to recruit buy-in, organize volunteers, source materials, communicate their project, and much more. We can see here that there's many ways that teams feel that they're growing personally and professionally. We do have a couple of ways that we support them in a structured way. So we have an orientation session once their project is approved. We expect a progress and final report from them. We provide budget updates, and we also do informal coaching. And our reporting shows an overwhelmingly positive experience. And this is great because it really sets the stage for project leads to get involved in other sustainability initiatives. People can be involved in sustainability by being in the fund, by being a project lead. They can be on the team member. They can be on the governance council, since the governance council is for staff and for students, or they can be a volunteer sustainability ambassador. Our two main lessons learned that I want to share with you are the following. So first, we have learned that setting a stream of funding can really set the stage and really dictate what kind of applications we receive and what kind of projects we get out of it. So previously, at the beginning, we only had two possibilities, under $5,000 or over $5,000. Now we realize that by having different streams, so a very small stream and a very large stream, this really guides the type of application we receive. As you might expect, tiny streams, so small projects, are often students who are applying. Could be for sustainable catering or something small. And Big Wave, which is over $100,000. These are often staff-led projects, since this is more about infrastructure, but nevertheless, the Governance Council and the way that we do things requires that there is collaboration between staff and students, no matter what size of the project. Secondly, I want to say that moral support is an invisible superpower. So the coaching is often the most meaningful aspect of the fund on both sides. I know because I was part of a sustainability project fund initiative earlier in my professional career, and it really keeps individuals going and it motivates them and helps to keep the spark of the culture of sustainability. That's what we're all about. So those are the main two takeaways that I wanted to share with you. And here is my email address if you'd like to contact me for other details. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gianluca Paglia, and I'm working at the EPFL Sustainability Office. And I want to present to you today the Active Change Lab initiative and what's the evolution of this little platform. Yeah, so what's the Active Change Lab? Of course, you had a lot of examples from the other universities. Our, I would say, is the smallest one, and probably we have the youngest platform or concept of this living lab that's been created only 3 years ago. So it's, let's say, it's a sustainable project platform. And it's, of course, an opportunity for all the EPFL community to develop and implement from A to Z a sustainable idea on and around the campus. We started really giving the support, coaching, financial, logistical support with our Unit 2 students, the staff that had an idea. And we had up to now 15 ongoing projects touching all different themes and topics that are challenging our world today, from energy to food, passing through gardening. So of course you're gonna have some projects that are repeated also in our university, but I think it's important that we share with you as a young platform what's happened in these first years. So I just put some keywords about learning outcomes, because what is more important is just to figure it out that the students probably for the first time or in a completely different process, they getting used to what's a project management, the business plan, how to manage time and money. Some of them really were starting their idea, having already a startups concept and project for a final product or idea. But we also had to face some students with no principle of sustainability that never had the chance to make a life cycle analysis or assessment. And of course, the community and social experience was something that was really high and well accepted through the students and the community, but also to learn how to communicate about our own idea or concept or project that we have, how to pitch an idea. And as a kind of first result, so we have some pros and cons. Of course, this motivation coming from and for the students and the staff, the successful stories. Some of them, some of this project became startups, are becoming startups in this moment, and of course the real and concrete experiences. But we also have to face the fact that this is a really important and difficult question that we probably have the time to have later on, to be part or not to be part of the curricula or get credits of coming from all these experiences. So we tried to push some of the project to be part of the curriculum, to be part as a master thesis or a semester project. But this is something that has to be built inside of the school, inside of university. It is not easy at all. It's for me one of the most difficult part. We also face the fact that, okay, no risk, no fun, some dead-ended ideas. So we start with some nice project, but with the fact that the students take some time and they're there only for a limited time, period of time, they just finish without finish up the ideas. And of course we face up with the COVID-19 that stopped a lot of projects, and showing the importance for the community to just be there, to have social contacts, to have the experience on campus. And doing online practical projects, it's so hard because you cannot just share your experiences and having fun, or just having this content that is so a basic principle of this kind of projects. And I will say, with the kind of a comparison, we had a lot of students and people that surfed the wave, but this wave just, yeah, they were there a bit too early because they were ready to do it. But now we are now in a changing way in our university, in our mood. It becomes a reality, but they were there a bit too early. So what's the mission and the next steps for our AquaChange Lab? I would say, of course, use this experience to continue create a motivated community about sustainability, create some supporters, no matter if they are students or staff or whatever. Also help to define what that sustainable means, because we have plenty of different definition and aspect about sustainability, but use this as a way to define, or to let the community define themselves the sustainability. Here we are, share the concept and project with other universities. We are doing this today. The idea is that you can get as much information and inspiration as possible, use, replicate, copy, paste everything in your university, start from scratch as we did, and try to integrate as soon as possible, of course, the SDGs, your climate plans, your climate action, into your platforms, as we try to do. And our next steps, I show you the little girl tried to surf the wave at the right moment, but now we have to use the experience we have. Okay, we can give surf lessons, we can rent some board, we can do this, and I think it's a good occasion to do it. And Nicola will continue showing a way, an example of a good continuation of this first experience we're having at EPFL.
Thanks very much, Gianluca. Thank you very much for sharing, and for also giving a good context, I think, to what I would like to share, this example of what we've learned from the AquaChange Lab. So what I will share with you is the Climate and Sustainability Action Week, which we've nicknamed Seesaw. And I'm here presenting on behalf of the coordination team. So I'd like to also acknowledge my peers, my colleagues, Mishka Mello and Eric Demon, who put really a lot of time into this initiative as well. So to start off, what is Seesaw? Well, Seesaw it's a one week intensive time for students from all over EPFL to come together to learn to act upon sustainability challenges by co-designing their own projects that then they will lead and carry on. And the idea is that these projects get fed into channels such as the AquaChange Lab. And the reason that this idea came about, well, it was inspired by ETH Week. But also we recognize that there's a huge potential for our students and a huge desire on behalf of our students to develop these projects and realize them in their local environment, whether that be, on the campus, like the AquaChange Lab tries to do. And we really do encourage the students to develop project ideas that are local and actionable. And the beauty of this week is also that there's a huge team behind it, in that we really co-created it in the true sense of the word of co-creating. We had 11 students that helped us develop this week, along with 9 staff from across all faculties and parts of EPFL. And the journey through the week, it really puts an emphasis on really understanding complex sustainability issues before designing or jumping into the design of specific project ideas. So the idea is that the projects that come out are hopefully well oriented towards some pertinent questions that exist for the students in their daily lives. And one thing that we took on board really strongly from the experience of the Act for Change Lab is this idea that learning is a priority. And so we created the week, and even though at the moment it is co-curricular, it is not credited, but we created the week with learning being a priority, with the idea of eventually getting this week credited. So we actually designed specific learning outcomes for the week, and we co-designed these with the co-creation students. And we also targeted skills that are not frequently taught at EPFL, and that namely being that students need to learn to address complex sustainability challenges. So also throughout the process of the week, we developed metacognitive learning reflections and ensured that the students were taking a step back and thinking, okay, so what do I actually want to get out of this week? And how am I going to do that? And that was to really support this idea that, you know, it's not just the project idea that you come up with, but it really is also what you learn throughout the week. So I'll just give you a brief overview. We've already had the pilot. We had the pilot in February. And the pilot was focused on circular economy. So throughout the week, students went through workshops on, you know, what is circular economy? What does it mean to integrate circular design concepts in what I'm designing? How can I understand the problem using, you know, ideas of approaches of collective intelligence? And they also heard from a number of speakers and went through a prototyping, what we like to call prototyping workshop, an intensive process. So what was learnt during the pilot? It was unfortunately online, unfortunately or fortunately. We still had a great time. But a lot of the students, or 97% of them, said they learned something throughout the week. And 94% said that these competencies and skills will be really helpful for them in their professional careers. And we also assessed the achievement of the learning outcomes. And 91% said that they learned to apply a sustainability centered design process, which was one of the key outcomes for this week that we had set. There are still a few areas that we would like to strengthen. So for the next edition, we're going to strengthen more the understanding stakeholder needs, understanding and exploring stakeholder needs. But overall, there was great achievement of the learning outcomes as assessed by the students themselves. So what are the next steps for CSO? As I said, we already had our pilot with 35 participants in February this year, and we're ramping up to prepare for the first official full edition in September. The week before the semester starts back. And next year, we have the ambition to then upscale even further to 200 participants and bring in local universities, other local universities in a form of collaboration. And throughout this entire process, we're always co-creating the weeks. So we're continuously inviting students to come in and to contribute to the design of the week itself. So thank you very much. And I will pass it back over to David and Shona.
Wow, there's such interesting work going on all of our campuses. Co-curricular student learning is often an underappreciated benefit of this living lab and sustainability work and student-led projects. Although hearing from everybody today, maybe it's increasingly being appreciated, and there's lots of exciting innovation and new strategies being developed, and I learned a lot. Now I'm excited for us all to join you in a Q&A session that we'll all be joining in just a moment.